Hey, what's up? It's DJ. Today we've got a new blog talking about ground deformation in Farming Simulator 25 and how it's going to work. There's a lot more that's going into this feature than it first seemed, so we're going to dive in and talk about the specifics a little bit. If you haven't pre-ordered FS25 yet, you can still do that via the link down below for the base game as well as the year one bundle. Less than 2 weeks away. First off, let's talk about how the ground deforms. Depending on the ground type, the deformation and compression of the soil is dependent on multiple factors. Tarmac, of course, can't be deformed, but mud can be deformed a lot. Driving on snow will instantly crush it to the ground, while driving on dirt or mud deforms it more gradually. It also is dependent on if the ground is wet or not. The vehicle you're driving and wheel type, along with the weight of said vehicle, all play a huge role in how much ground deformation that there is. Also, a slower moving vehicle will sink more quickly than a faster moving vehicle. This ground deformation system will also determine how players do things, and more importantly, what types of vehicles and wheels that they use when doing those things. For the first time, FS25 is going to give us a real physical response from the terrain. You're actually going to feel the tractor bumping all over the ground, creating ruts and tracks along the way. And if you drive back over those ruts and tracks, you're going to feel those too. It'll also be harder to steer. If you have dug yourself into the ground, just like in real life, it's going to be difficult. Driving in the rain will be more difficult as well than driving when the sun is out, and your tire configuration now plays a massive role, as you'll have to consider using different tires for different scenarios and even different seasons, so that you have the best performance on whatever terrain you're working on. Because the fields are going to deform, you're going to find that some jobs can be quite satisfying, like plowing your fields. The plow creates real physical furrows which can be seen and will affect how your vehicle reacts when driving over the field. Using tracks on your tractor can help a lot too, as they can handle this uneven ground extremely well. One thing that Giants have not talked about yet is if you can turn ground deformation on or off. Now, this is a question I've seen quite a bit, and I'm going to assume no, because this is a part of the base game and not just a feature that could be turned on and off. I will say I'm not quite sure if they're going to disappear or not. I feel like in the past they've told us that some of the ground deformation will disappear at some points, kind of like the tire marks that we've got right now do. But again, a lot of this stuff are things that we're going to have to test once we get the game in hand. So make sure you're subscribed, that way you don't miss any of that. I'll be showing you everything. Speaking of everything, there were a lot of technical challenges when implementing ground deformation into Farming Simulator. They've released a full blog with a really awesome interview. If you're super techie or maybe just smarter than I am, it's not very hard to do, you can check out the blog where Giant Software interviewed senior software engineer Eddie Edwards, who went into even more detail about it. Doesn't affect how, like, the gameplay, the player, but if you really like all the tech stuff and want to know exactly how it works, well, told you all about it there. Along with the blog, we also got 20 new screenshots showing off ground deformation, some of which we've already seen in this video, but let's jump in and take a closer look. Here's our first one with the John Deere 9R and the big old Kverneland plow. You can see just how the plow is digging into the ground. This is not any type of trickery or anything. The ground is really being dug down into, or at least, well, kind of moved out of the way with some science and maths, but there is that. Got a pretty neat setup when it comes to the furrows kicking the ground over. However, that is probably an animation that's tied to the plow itself, so I wouldn't get too excited about the dirt being moved from one place to the other. The dirt's just kind of being deformed. That's how things are working. It does look very cool though, doesn't it? If you want to get a sneakier look at everything and you've got your triangles, polygons and everything, again, this is a side of the game that I do not pay attention to, but I'm sure there's some modders out there that would love to see how this is being done. Here we can see it from a different angle, and you can see just how much the ground's being dug into. This looks really good. Hey, you never know, I may not fly through the field at 100 miles an hour because, well, the game may not let me. A couple more pictures of the plowing. Of course, here's the John Deere 9R again with the plow on the back. Just from a different angle, we got everything flipped on this one. And one more screenshot right here. We can see the furrows kicking off that dirt off to the right-hand side a little bit better, and, well, there's some stones. I think after seeing the same screenshot 5 times, you get the picture. Moving along, here's our Oxbow green bean harvester. I'm kind of figuring out which ones are which by the wheel setups. Nonetheless, you can see here we've got just some wet dirt. It's not quite mud yet. I actually don't know if the dirt's going to change into mud or not, or if that's just in the fields and not the pathways. Nonetheless, you can see there has been some mud that's being kicked up on the machine on the back wheels, and the ground is deforming what looks to be a lot more than it would just on dirt paths. So that's pretty darn cool. Additionally, early ground deformation just kind of pushed the ground in and did not actually put the wheel tracks in. I don't know if you remember that from early screenshots of videos. However, it's done it here. Although I'm pretty sure in the video they released, which we'll talk about next, some of it didn't line up very well. Here we've got our big 9R again, but we have dual wheels on here this time instead of single wheels, and we're getting less compaction into the soil because of that. Now we're still getting some, don't get me wrong, but it does look like it's compacting a whole lot less, and even when I drove the 9R with duals in the game during the preview stuff, well, it was kind of like this. It kind of felt like this. I don't know, it looks pretty good, I think. Zooming in a whole lot on those tire tracks might be a little bit unfair, but at least at this, I mean, it looks pretty good, right? Also, dig how the ground looks. Got little pebbles and just little pieces of forage in there. That looks pretty cool. I also really dig the lighting in this picture, so this screenshot for me is a whole lot more than just the lack of ground deformation. Still getting the tracks there, though. On the contrary, here is our 9R again, but with singles, we got a whole bunch of mud in the tires because it is raining. Actually, little puddles are starting to form on the field. Do you see that? That is very cool. I don't know if I've seen that before. That's awesome. We've got a bunch of mud that's forming inside the tires, and if we look down on the ground, the tracks are facing the correct way with the wheels. I know there's been a bit of an issue with that on some things previously, but hey, it's great to see that that is now the right way. But we can definitely see here, there's even more ground deformation once the rear wheel has gone over. Look at the front wheel. It almost looks like it's not deformed enough. And then there's a little dip down, and then our rear wheel finally compacts it right down. I don't know who's going to be using a big 9R with singles, but yeah, maybe put some duals on there. Looked a lot better. Here's the same thing from a different angle, and we're actually getting a lot more shininess off of the wheels. There's so much mud that's just caked up in there. And again, we can kind of see the same thing where the front wheels have dug in a little bit, but the rear wheels are really pushing that down. Multiple layers of ground deformation definitely makes this look cool. Not really any ground deformation to show here with the Quad-Track 715, which I got to drive a few weeks ago. Just want to point that out there. We've also got a bunch of dirt, not mud, dirt stuck between the wheels. That looks pretty good. Also, I want to point out that the machine itself is very clean, but well, for the most part anyway. However, those tracks, man, they really could use a little bit of help. Here we've got a very similar kind of setup. It does look like it's either in the same place or very close to being around in the same place. Again, more dirt on the tracks and more just crud just jammed right in there. You have to clean that out. I would assume the more you drive on hard surfaces, the more that's just going to start coming off. But hey, you never know. We got a couple screenshots of our Valtra series with what looks to be a power harrow out in the field. So here you can see some of the dirt in between the tires. And if we zoom in, there is a bit of dirt in there. You can also see the marks that the power harrow is leaving off into the back, which is in contrast to this screenshot here, where the tractor is actually riding across all of the plow marks. So you can see the direction of our power harrow in the back going straight across. I bet that is a very bumpy ride inside. And here we go, driving the correct way once more. Also, if we look in our barn back there, they are hiding something else, a yellow tractor. I do believe that's our AGCO tractor, but in the shape of a Challenger with the paint and liveries and everything on it. And then I'm pretty sure that is our Great Plains solid stand 1500 seater. This screenshot was taken on one of the farms that we've shown off a lot, and we even have the cattle farm in the background. And we can zoom way in on it like that, but that's as far as I can zoom in. Here we are in Hutan Pantai. I think the first screenshot on Hutan Pantai, and maybe the only one that we've got today. Here is our Iseki rice planter. In a field, you can see some of the smaller tracks that it's got there. The flooding has occurred. It looks like the ground is either cultivated or harvested, something like that. It's quite bumpy, but the field is not flooded from our pump. This looks like it has been heavily raining, and now you've got all these puddles everywhere, which would happen. Since we're talking about ground deformation here, I might as well show you the ground deformation happening. This has got some very small wheels, so expect a lot of rutting. I will say I'm most certainly excited to find out what we have to do to get these puddles in our fields. These rice paddies are gonna flood, yes, but not like this. Looks just awesome. And the water's like muddy and dirty. That's so cool. Our last screenshots are showing off everything from the snow. And as they have said, the snow will crunch and be destroyed when you run over it. I don't know if the words that they used will properly mirror what we should expect in Farming Simulator 25. But nonetheless, you can still see here we've got our 9R, which they've been very heavy-handed with single wheels. These may be a wide tire. It kind of looks like a wide tire to me on the snow. Here you can see they have shown when turning, and you definitely have a lot more rutting and a lot more ground deformation when turning, and I can attest to that truthfully because I have tried turning and it just kind of digs into the ground and slows way down. One more here, you can definitely see as it is taking that turn there, and these do not look like wide tires. These now look like normal tires. I don't know if they are or not, but there is so much ground deformation and smushing right there with that snow. Here it is from a different angle. To be fair, the snow looks a little bit shiny, although snow can be a little bit shiny depending on the circumstances. So, but I don't know what to tell you here. And lastly, same thing from one more angle. And of course, you may have seen a few days ago that Giant Software released a new FS25 in 25 seconds video showcasing this ground deformation. It's a cool video, even though it came out a few days before the blog, which, it is me, whatever. It gives us an idea of what everything's going to look like once the game is out. So I highly recommend, if you're curious and you want to know exactly how it's going to work, watch the video a few times over. It also showed us how nasty the treads of our wheels and tires are going to be after working in the field, so get your power washers ready. And that's it. That is all the information that we were given today about ground deformation in Farming Simulator 25. Is this a feature that you're excited about, or is it something that you could care less about? Hey, let me know. Don't forget, FS25 will be available on Tuesday, November the 12th, 2024 for PC, Mac, PS5, and Xbox Series. If you still haven't pre-ordered, now's a good time to do that. You only got a little while left. Check the link down below, which takes you to pre-orders for both the base game as well as the year one bundle. That way, you can get the one that you want. Console players can also pre-order these variations through their respective game stores. If you have any questions at all, please let me know, and you can check out the other FS25 videos on screen right now. Thank you for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I'll see you in the next one.